Welcome to the Third Win channel, where today we're talking about Big Time Rush, and more specifically, we're doing an episodes tier list for Season 1. This is a series we do on this channel, the whole episodes tier list thing. We've done iCarly, Victorious, other shows. You can check those out if you're interested, but today, like I said, we're talking about Big Time Rush. And speaking of Big Time Rush, yesterday we made a video where we talk about Big Time Rush in a nostalgic sense. It's a series on this channel called Retro View, where we take a series or a topic and from the past, and we kind of take a look at it, how it, like now in the present, and see how it held up with time. So you can check that out if you're interested, but let's get back to the video and the tier list. So here's your standard tier list, and here are some modifications. We got favorites iconic at the top, great, good, okay, and could skip at the bottom. And there's 20 episodes in season 1, and we're gonna go from 1 to 20 in order, and I'm just gonna be fitting these into the tier list. And just a quick clarification, each episode is called Big Time something, so I'm just going to be putting the third so like the first episode is called Big Time Audition, so I'm just going to be writing Audition just to make things a little simpler. And another clarification, episodes 1 and 2 and 19 and 20 are grouped, so I'm just going to make them 1, so it's going to be 18 instead of 20, if that makes any sense. So let's get into the video, all the clarifications out of the way. First episode is called Audition, so Big Time Audition. I love this pilot and how it introduces our boys. It gives us an extended runtime. This episode runs for an hour instead of half an hour. And we get to meet our boys from Minnesota. And we immediately have this contrast between Minnesota and LA. And I love how about half the episode is in Minnesota and the other half is in LA. I think it makes it for, you kind of feel the transition with them. And we immediately meet our big characters like Gustavo and Griffin in the studio. We see what the boys' nature is like. They're very rowdy, and they cause, mayhem because they're hockey players, of course. And they're all very different in their personality. And I think the first episode does a great way of showing that. For example, they each take their own audition, and they all have a very specific take on it. Overall, I just I don't know, this episode also introduced the Palm Springs, all the characters, and it does it seamlessly, to be honest. And I can't put it anywhere other than favorites iconic. I could talk about this episode for longer, but I don't want to bore you guys. But yeah, top of the list here. Next up, we got School of Rock. So there's a few episodes in my mind that I remember when I was thinking of a Big Time Rush, like back in the day, because I watched the show growing up. So I was thinking, I remember the Audition episode, I remember School of Rock, and I'll get to a couple others, but School of Rock I definitely remember, because I remember the guys driving these teachers insane, and I think that's super funny. And they bring up the big Teachers Association book and show them the rules, and they have to have a school mascot, whatever. And just seeing Gustavo, rage over and over is a treat. So this episode, again, goes in one of my favorites. It's one of the ones I remember from growing up. And I really like this episode. And also they're daydreaming of what school would be like at the Palm Springs and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of good stuff. Next up, we got Crib. I'm surprised they literally called the episode Big Time Crib, just like MTV Cribs, But they have a sweet crib, and their fight for this crib and kind of seeing the evolution between what they were living in and what they got at the end after, Gustavo treated them to it. And I don't know, it's just... I like this episode a lot for some reason. I just seeing the boys get rewarded, and the change of scenery to something so awesome. I just have to give this episode great. I don't remember what the subplot was for Kendall's sister. What was her name again? I can't remember, but Kendall's mom and the sister have a pretty cool subplot in this episode. I just can't remember what it was. But moving on, we have episode 4, which is Bad Boy. And Bad Boy I thought was a little bit less good, but this episode is basically about how the corporate staff believe that the band needs a bad boy, and it's just a kind of formula for boy bands they basically hire this guy who no one likes, and Kendall ends up having to step up and kind of push him out of the way and show that he can be the one to put the foot down. So I thought this episode was all right. I think it was a little bit, not cringy, but a little bit just awkward at times, and I don't think the bad boy aesthetic was carried super well, but I like the concept of corporate wanting a bad boy and blah blah blah. So, and like the concept worked, but the execution was eh. So it's okay. Next up, we got Love Song, and this character, though, this episode introduces both Joe and Freight Train, so it's important for those reasons, but the episode itself is a bit of a mess. I do like how, I guess, the boys all chase Joe and they're fighting over her, but it gets old quite quickly. But Joe is a great character, and for the introduction alone, there's some fun moments, so I like to put it in good. Moving on, Mansion. This is where the boys take care of Gustavo's mansion, and they break all of his rules, and Kendall asks his mom to come in and help, and she does, and everything is seamless until the end, where Gustavo finds an alligator in his bathroom, the statue breaks, all this fudge is eaten, and or pudding, sorry, and yeah. But what is important about this episode is that Gustavo learns that even though he found some bands with more talent, he likes the boys for their energy and fire, or more specifically maybe Kendall's energy and fire. So he needs he needs the band to kind of attack back. He doesn't like when people are just complete servants. So I thought that was really interesting about this episode, and therefore, yeah, it's good. I was tempted to put it in great actually as well. Moving on, we got Photo Shoot, which was an episode which I think maybe many would consider not so good, but I love how the boys fight to keep their authenticity. Something that maybe later in the season kind of vanishes a bit, or in the later seasons vanishes a bit. So I do love how these boys fight to keep their image, and the corporate image is wacky with space, what was it, matadors and fluffy dogs, and I thought it was a fun episode, and how it ended with the kind of celebrity blah blah blah. You know, if you've seen it, you've seen it. In terms of this episode, I actually quite liked it. It was a nice change of pace because there's some flashbacks and stuff, and the storytelling is a little different. Moving on, we got episode 8, which is absolutely one of my favorites because we get each guy they need a break from each other. They've spent all this time together. At this point, we're like 4 or 5 months down the line, and they're getting a little tired of each other. So when they want to break off and do their own thing, and everyone has something going on this episode. Carlos loses his helmet, and we get to meet his dad. For example, James takes on some acting. We have Logan trying to get into an all-girl schools for a lecture, and Kendall is trying to spend more time with Joe. So all these things are really entertaining, and like Joe lying about the boyfriend thing was really fun. And this episode also kind of starts the relationship between Kendall and Joe for real. So I love this bottled off episode for each guy kind of gets their own screen time, and we get to learn more about them individually, which I thought was really fun. So this episode is absolutely one of my favorites. It's not one I like remembered from when I was growing up, but when I was rewatching the show just now, I was like, damn, I like this episode a lot. It's great. Next up, we got demos. So demos for this is like the mid-season finale for the show, and I actually quite like demos. I mean, obviously the girlfriend, or not the girlfriend, but the Griffin's daughter is I either love her or you hate her, but I thought it was a fun way of doing it. The whole demo thing, I really like was it Bobo the monkey? Was it Bobo? I can't remember, but all those things combined, it was a fun episode. I can't bring it down. Yeah, it's great. It's not like I can't put it in my favorites or whatever, but it's just a really solid episode. A really great mid-season finale. It keeps you on the edge, and I liked it. Moving on, we got Party, which, like, on paper and looking at that, rewatching the episode, it's maybe not the greatest episode because it's literally just the boys partying and them trying to keep bidders away from the party, but it's also a little bit about kind of celebrating their demos and the corporate coming over, which is fun. And there's some Russian acrobats and stuff and whatever, but for me, like, yes, the episode is very silly and it's just about partying, but it's one that is just vividly in my memory from growing up, and I can totally see why. I also like how Kendall and Joe are working together to keep bidders away. All those little moments, I feel like I had to put this in my favorites, and I'm sure most people would just put this in okay or like could skip, but for me, I don't know why I love this episode. Moving on, we got Jobs, which is a really like it was also more of a bottled off episode for the boys, and it was slightly less well done than Break, but I still think Jobs is, or Big Time Jobs is really cool episode. My favorite moment for, I mean, let me explain. The boys breaks too much stuff, so basically Gustavo makes them get jobs, and each of them get a job. Kendall and I believe Logan are out spinning signs for a car dealership. That's the most boring one. James is working for an elbow modeling agency, and Carlos is working for Gustavo. But the funniest moment in this episode is when Carlos needs to get coffee for Gustavo, and he's fighting against this ultra smart coffee machine, which in the end beats Carlos, and it has some really funny lines, by the way. So this episode, yeah, good. Also tempted to put it in great. I do love this kind of bottling off. Next up, we got Blogger. What can I say about Blogger? I thought it was refreshing, but would I watch it again? No. Is it believable? I don't feel like he would write such a positive review. Maybe he got some Stockholm syndrome, but I mean, the episode is about this blogger who's really big and they need to get a good review, and everything goes wrong when they're doing their interview. I do like how corporate kind of trains them to give answers, and therefore they lose their authenticity. But otherwise, it's kind of unbelievable that the boys wouldn't just remain authentic as well. They've kind of caved for the trying to be successful, but yeah, it's okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm undervaluing this episode. Every episode has this kind of theme, like lesson and theme and kind of musical professional course, and I think that this one was good. Like the concept was good. I just don't think it was super believable. I don't know. Moving on, we got Dance, episode 14, which is really just a romantic episode about each guy trying to land a date. James is covered. He literally asks 20 people out, but he's helping Logan ask, not Quinn. Quinn because of Zoe 101. Erin? No, I mean the actress is Erin Sanders. I can't remember her name now, but yeah, Logan and her have a thing. Carlos asks out the Jennifers, or no, the Jennifers ask him out in the end. But then in the end, Carlos ends up with another girl. It's really complicated. And Kendall, having to plan the dance, he never asks Joe, but it all ends well when Joe comes up to him and says, "Oh, you never asked me to dance." Kendall goes, "Oh, I thought we were just together. I thought we were already like a thing." And Joe she lightens up. She's like, "Oh, really? Like you consider us like together already?" And it's a romantic episode, and yeah, it's a bit messy, but I thought it was good. Verging on great. I slightly bottled off again. I like these episodes. Moving on, we got Terror, which is probably the weirdest episode of the season, but its kind of subplot is really important. Well, let me just explain the episode. Basically, the Palm Springs gets haunted basically by ghosts, and that kind of terrorizes everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people living there. And the boys try to figure out what's behind it, with Logan believing it's just someone pulling a prank and Carlos believing there's actual ghosts. But the subplot of this episode is Gustavo's home gets flooded, so he decides to live with the boys because he's banned from hotels. And we get to see Gustavo's character and how he never had any fun growing up because all he did was play piano. And we get to see how he likes spending time with the boys. He likes having fun with them. He likes to learn with them. And I think this is a really important episode for learning about Gustavo. So for that reason, for me, it goes in great. I thought it was also very entertaining. We get introduced to a few new characters. So yeah, great episode. Moving on, we got Sparks, which is a celebrity-focused episode, like a real celebrity. One that I think is probably outdated at this point, so I didn't really know her. Was Jordan Sparks. I think she won American Idol or something. But in terms of the episode, it was interesting enough. It was just, you had to get super kind of focused in on this Jordan Sparks character who only appears in one episode, and then that's it. And I don't know, retrospectively, like after finishing the season, I have to put this episode on just okay. Like it was on a good skip, but I just don't value it so much. I think if I had to choose like a worst episode of the season, it would probably go to this one. But that being said, it's not even bad. It's pretty entertaining actually towards the end of the episode. Moving on, we got Fever, which is about the boys getting homesick, and each of them take on these weird traits to kind of I don't know, mask their homesickness. And by far the craziest, of course, is James with his spray tan madness, which is quite funny. And maybe for that alone, it should go into iconic. But I like how in the end of the episode they kind of get reminded of their hometown with the snowball fight. That's nice. Maybe this should go into iconic. I did put it in okay because I mean the spray tan stuff and everything is a bit crazy and really messy, but I put it okay. But in a different video, it could have been in iconic for the really funny spray stuff. Especially that montage where Kendall's trying to hit him with water guns and he's just dodging everything, which is really funny. Moving on, we got a big time video where it's all about the music video, and simultaneously people are losing their jobs and they have to leave the Palm Springs. And the boys basically tell everyone that they can be in their music video so they can keep staying at Palm Springs to be like actors or whatever. So, and this goes wrong when the company says, hey, look, we don't want all these people in the video. But the boys secretly shoot a video by themselves with all these people. And it goes really well. And the video is actually pretty cool. And yeah, it's honestly, it feels like it could be like a mid-season finale. It's not like fantastic or anything, but I think it's a great episode. It's we get to see all the characters, and it's a fun video, fun episode. Moving on to our season finale, which is Big Time Concert. Basically, the boys, after all this, corporate decides to cancel the tour, cancel the record and everything. And yeah, Big Time Rush basically is no more. 3 of the boys have kind of accepted it and moved on, while James signs with Gustavo's competitor, was it Hawk Records? But Gustavo realizes, you know what? These boys are worth it, and he puts down $2 million to buy Big Time Rush from Griffin. So then the 3 boys come back to LA, and Gustavo's like, where's James? And then in the end, they try to get James back, and they do. And then they prepare for the concert. And it's a great way to finish off the second season because you get the feeling that, you know, they're going off on this big concert. And I guess the second season will start with them, you know, coming back from this concert and dealing with fame and success. Because in season 1, you don't see fame and success with Big Time Rush. How is that going to affect their lifestyle later on? So I will make, by the way, that's a good segue into, I will make, let me just show you where I put concert. I put concert in great for similar reasons why I put demo there. I think it could have been a little better. Like it's not audition standard, but it's good. I guess the ending could have been slightly better, but it's a good. I want to talk about the segue. It basically is saying that I wanted to make a season 1 overview video where I can talk about all these different themes I saw and how the storyline progresses through the season. I thought a lot of things were really interesting, and I wanted to make a kind of in-depth overview episode on season 1. So if you want to see that, let me know. I have a lot of ideas. But this is my tier list for season 1. I had a lot of fun rewatching the first season. I originally thought it was going to be kind of not so fun and I would enjoy it so much, but I did. But that's me for today. That's been the Third Wind channel. I'm off to watch season 2 so I can make episode 2 for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon with a new video tomorrow.